Welcome to EO Talks, Eastern Oregon's very own talk show, only here on EOAlive.
Hi, I am State Representative Christine Drazan, and I am running for governor of Oregon. I am a small town girl. I'm originally from Klamath Falls. And when I was growing up, I had these family members that talked politics all the time. But when they would talk politics, they, if I'm being honest, would mostly complain about the price of gas and the price of just cost of living, affordability issues. And they really made this direct tie between the politicians that were serving locally and the politicians in DC, and how they just were not listening to the needs of everyday Oregonians. And that stuck with me, this idea that the people who are elected to serve don't necessarily always do what they should to take care of people and solve problems. And so I was fresh out of college, and I made the decision to find out for myself what politics was really like. And I had the opportunity to work in the state legislature in the 90s when Republicans had control of the House and the Senate. And during that time, I worked as, I would say, kind of your entry-level position initially, and then moved my way up really quickly to chief of staff, and then worked in leadership offices. And I did that for 8 years. And so in the 8 years that we had balance in the state legislature, we had Republicans in both chambers. We had a Democrat governor in the governor's office at that time. And I was there for extraordinary efforts around tax reform and Measure 11. And the work that was done at that time has strengthened our state in the years since that we've been under one party rule. So I left that to raise my family, and I had the opportunity after my local state representative retired to run for his seat. And I did that in 2018. And after that session, I was elected House Republican leader. It was an extraordinary privilege and opportunity to work with folks across the state, to be able to be a voice for the Republican caucus and to lead that caucus through some really difficult times, through the cap and trade walkout, and through our response to COVID and all of the challenges that the state has had under these extraordinary mandates the governor's imposed. And so prior to making the decision to run for governor, I have been fighting the fight. I have been in the trenches, pushing back against Kate Brown and her aggressive agenda in Salem on behalf of folks that are just not well represented right now in Oregon. And I'm anxious to do everything I can to restore balance in Salem, and an extraordinary opportunity to do that, to get our state back on the right track, is to serve as Oregon's next Republican governor. I am a mom of 3 kiddos. I have a freshman in high school and a senior in high school. And my oldest son is going to college right now. And so when I first made the decision to run, I talked to every member of my family, like you do, and you say, what do you think about this? If we make this decision to jump into public service in an elected position, what are your concerns? Or, can our family do this? Do I have your support? And my husband and my boys, they were all in. They recognized the need for balance. They recognized the need for leadership. My daughter at the time was 10, and all she really cared about was that I was home for breakfast. And she cared about the time we spent together. The boys were a little older. They'd get on the bus. They'd get out the door a little sooner. My husband would go off to work. And my daughter and I had this time together where we'd have eggs and toast every morning. And it was her time for her to talk about whatever she wanted to talk about, and for her to know that she is the most important thing right then. In that moment, whatever matters to her is the only thing that there is in this world. And she didn't want to lose that. And I don't want to lose that. And so I made a commitment to her that her eggs and toast time, that we would always make time for family. We'd always make time for her. And, whether or not we're getting together for eggs and toast at 11 o'clock at night or 7 o'clock in the morning, we really do protect that family time. And they're the reason I am pursuing public service. They're the reason I'm pursuing the governor's office. We have got to turn the state around. We have got to create an environment that our kids will stay here, that there will be jobs for them, that they will have the opportunity to find their future in my home state, in their home state, and not have to leave for somewhere else. My husband and I are going to celebrate our 25th wedding anniversary on the primary election day, if you can believe it. So May the 17th, we will have been married for 25 years, and my husband is an attorney. And we have lived outside kind of rural Clackamas County area for most of our married life. And our kids attended local public high school here. So.
Gotcha. So you're from Canby, right?
Yeah, we are. Well,
Awesome.
I'm originally from Klamath Falls, and then graduated Eagle Point High School when I was young. But I put myself through George Fox College in Newburgh. If you're familiar with that school, it's a wonderful school, and have stayed up here since then. And my husband and I have been in the Canby area for a little over 20 years. Yeah, we have here in my legislative district, I represent sort of on the edge of I-5 for folks that may or may not be familiar with this area. It's kind of a retirement community, a golfing community, Charbonneau, and then it comes all the way over to Canby and then rural Clackamas County. So you get small towns like Malino, communities like Beaver Creek, Eagle Creek, and then up into Estacada. My existing district also represents portions of Damascus, Boring, Happy Valley, and all the outskirts to Oregon City itself, and just a little bit of the city of Oregon City. And I have been representing them since I got elected in 2018. You know, people recognize right now that our schools are failing our kids, that Democrat leadership has, in fact, robbed our children of their best and brightest future unless we turn it around. What they have done recently to abandon testing, so we don't even know how much learning loss our kids had during COVID, is a disservice to them and actually doesn't allow them to compete against the kids that they will be competing against you when they get out of high school. Those kids, their schools didn't shut down, or ours did. And so it's been a lot of conversation about education, about keeping schools open, about keeping extracurricular activities going, because that is so critical to the social and emotional health of our kids. It's critical to their lives as they're growing up, their memories, the people that they become, the relationships that they develop. We have got to keep our schools open. And families and students recognize the importance of in-person learning. And that has been a really critical issue. You know, in addition to that, we talk an awful lot right now about whether or not and when we're going to be able to turn these mandates around, and we're going to be able to give Oregonians the respect that they deserve to be able to make some of these decisions for themselves. And in fact, to not mandate that we have vaccine mandates. That's on day one, that goes away. And in my administration, we do not have vaccine mandates. And people want to know what the future is going to hold, that it's actually going to be a change, that electing a Republican governor is not going to be status quo. I can tell you it's not going to be status quo. That's the value of choosing change, to saying we're not going to do more of the same. We are not going to have another 4 years of this. We can't have another 4 years of this. We have to have change. And I'm committed to that change, because I recognize that the extraordinary burden that this administration and frankly these Democrat supermajorities have put on our business climate. Do you realize that we are one of the highest business tax states in the nation? So to do business in Oregon, you have to really be willing to pay an awful lot in taxes compared to choosing to grow, expand, and do business in neighboring states. So you have to love this place to be willing to continue to invest here. And it's costing us good jobs. It's costing us good businesses. I don't know if you've seen this, but in my community, I have seen so many pillars of our community, folks that have been here and have been running businesses for years and years, you know, sponsor the Little League team and are members of Rotary and Chamber, and they shut up shop. They leave because they don't believe that we can turn it around. I'm telling you, we can turn it around. We need leadership. We know all the problems. We know all the challenges, right? Like high taxes. It's not affordable to live here. Our housing prices are through the roof. Inflation is eating away at our family budgets. And then on top of that, you have schools are a mess. And so many Oregonians are living outside in the cold right now. We know what the problems are, but we have the ideas to fix them. And what we've got to do is work together and elect a Republican and actually see change in our state. Our problem isn't necessarily the problems. We can fix those. Our problem is leadership. We need new leadership. My favorite Oregonian historical figure is, I have always had so much respect for Mark Hatfield. So Mark Hatfield, when I was kind of fresh out of college and starting to work in Republican politics, I had the opportunity to interview Mark Hatfield, and he was very generous with his time. We talked an awful lot about leadership and what it meant to him to be a leader for so many years in public service, and I admired his integrity. He had this sense of his own moral compass for what was right and what was wrong, how to treat people, how to respect people, that was just consistent through all those years. And so I really, really admired Mark Hatfield, and it was a privilege to spend some time with him and get to know him. I'm a Christian, and I have been one since I was a little kid. I'm that person who came to a personal faith at a pretty young age. And it has, in fact, defined my choices. It's why I have such a deep respect for people. It's why I want to help people. And I am quick to forgive. And at least I hope I am. I don't know if necessarily my political opponents would feel that way, but I do. But that is who I am. I am a person that is committed to being honest and fair. And I am by no stretch of the imagination perfect. I am, but I am committed to serving others, and it's my Christian faith that's informed those values for me. I would expect that there'd be a lot of criticism. It's politics, and that and they may come from a lot of different directions depending on their perspective. I think the thing about public service that is so important to remember is that for me, a lot of people want to operate from this position where it's all bumper sticker politics. Does that make sense? Like what they want is they want the quick and easy sort of summarized version of everything. So we talk a lot in Salem about these really, really kind of wonky details, like what percentage is the tax rate going to be, and who's exempted and who's included. And you can do that in any category, in every single policy. I sat on the healthcare committee, and healthcare is an extraordinary area that's very, very complex. And a lot of people want to take what happens in healthcare to Oregonians and what the healthcare system looks like and really make sort of a bumper sticker politics out of it. When if you really want to serve people, if you really want to balance interests and get something done, the reality is that you have to look at the details. It's not always what do you want to get done. Most of the time, the issue is how. It's how do you want to get it done? Are you going to intentionally be punitive towards a group that you don't agree with? Are you going to harm someone and then kind of mask it in this idea that you're benefiting someone else? Are you picking winners and losers? Maybe that's a better way to put it. And when we pick winners and losers in politics, we aren't serving Oregonians well. And that's what Democrats do all the time with their power. And so I would expect that my opponents are going to say that I was a tough opponent. I think that, the Speaker of the House, Tina Kotek, hasn't always enjoyed being oppositional with me. But the reality of it is that she has too much power and she can't be trusted. And so if you have too much power and you don't have the kind of integrity where you keep your word, then we're going to have a problem, because I operate from a place of honesty and fairness and equality, and I want to serve Oregonians. And if you are not willing to keep that same standard, I'm going to hold you accountable. And that has been our relationship. It's been one where she has been unwilling to be held accountable to Oregonians. And as the House Republican leader, it was a privilege and an honor to do everything I could to stand up to her, to stand up to the powers that operate inside that building, whether or not they're the power brothers that pick winners and losers, or whether or not they're the elected legislators on the Democrat side of the aisle that are abusing their power inside that building. But whether or not it's Governor Kate Brown or Speaker Tina Kotek, those Democrats absolutely took the power that they had for granted every single day and abused it every single day in a variety of ways, and big ways and little ways. I had a piece of legislation in my first session that would have closed the loophole. And it would, to me, it was a simple piece of legislation. Right now, if your kid is injured at school, bullied or beat up by someone, then current law doesn't require that that school tells parents in any particular time frame. It's up to the school what they do and how they notify. I thought that had to be fixed. You have got to tell parents what's going on with their kids at school. They have to know. And that first session I got had bipartisan support. Democrats signed on. We had a good public hearing. People testified in support. And we made some amendments to the bill to satisfy some technical concerns. And then the chair of the committee killed it, didn't allow the bill to move forward. And I went to her after session and I said, what happened? I had bipartisan support. We amended the bill to satisfy the concerns that were out there. Why did you kill my bill? You know what she said? She said, because I could. And she took a modest piece of legislation that was intended to help kids that are suffering in schools, connect them with their support system at home, recognize parents have an important role to play in the lives of their own kids. And she killed the legislation just because she could. And the story continued on in the next session where I tried to move the bill again. It wasn't until this most recent session, and there had been a tragedy occur in the district of the Senate Majority Leader, where a dear young man had been bullied 70% of the time or more at school, and he took his own life. And his parents lived in the legislative district of a Democrat, the Senate Majority Leader, and they wanted to support my legislation. They didn't want any other children to face what their child had faced. They had no idea. The school never notified them. They had no idea their son was going through what he's going through. And so they weren't able to support him. And he tragically took his own life. And when that happened, when it became an issue that was in a Democrat district for a Democrat, they passed the legislation in one session. They moved it quickly through both chambers. It's now law, but it took the loss of the life of a student for that to happen. Before that happened, they were just wielding power casually, like there were no consequences, like the bill didn't matter, because they could. That's a problem. And that is what I stood up to every single day inside Salem. And that's what I'll continue to stand up to as the next Republican governor for the state of Oregon, because the Democrats need accountability. They need someone to tell them that the power that they wield impacts real people, and that they should not wield that power casually, and that they owe Oregonians a deep sense of responsibility to the people of this state that forces them to come to the table, to compromise, to negotiate, and to be accountable to Oregonians. And that's what I would do as the next Republican governor for Oregon.
Alrighty, next up is our world famous lightning round. So first off, ducks or beavers?
Oh, my friend, I went to George Fox. So I love them both.
There you go. What is your favorite Oregon landmark?
My favorite Oregon landmark is, I'm going to say Crater Lake. I love Crater Lake. I love national parks. I love our national park.
Alrighty, what is your favorite Oregon wine?
Stoller Vineyards has a Pinot that I just love.
Nice. Last up, what is your favorite place in Eastern Oregon?
I love Joseph. It's beautiful, on the way to Wallowa Lake. It's very artsy. There's so many places to love in Eastern Oregon. I mean, can you get enough of the Painted Hills? But I'm gonna call Joseph. I'm gonna say Joseph.
It is a pretty lovely town.
Thank you, Alex. I just want to say it's just been terrific to be with you today. Thanks for creating this opportunity to talk about the race and introduce myself. I am committed to serving the future of our state. I'm committed to bringing change when we so desperately need it. We all know what the problems are. We all know what we're facing together as Oregonians. And the solution is not more the same. The solution is change. This is our opportunity to elect a Republican in Oregon. It's a real opportunity. We can't squander it. We can't give this opportunity to anybody else. We can't let anyone else take our moment to achieve real change for our state. We have got to band together and elect a Republican to lead the state of Oregon. You can get in touch with me. You can reach me. You can find out more about my campaign at ChristineForOregon.com. Thanks so much for having me today, Alex.